creatures camouflage as waves receding far from plains pulling, upward slopes and faraway snow-dusted mountains, on spotted and clear-cut hills robbed of fur, high above wheat-tapestried valleys, floodplains up where headwaters reside, droplets pound. Listen. Hoofed and pawed mammals, pawing and hoofing themselves up, along rivers dammed by chocolate beavers, trailed by salamanders and mud puppies, plunging through currents above concrete and steel man-made barriers. These populations of plains, prairies, forests flee in such frenzy, popping splash dance, pillaging cattail zones, lashing lily pads, the breath of life in muddy ponds, still lakes. Liquid beads slide on windshield glass along cracked and shattered panes, spider-like with webs and prisms. Look there, the rainbow. Touch the ground, both ends down. Full arch, 7 colors showered. Heed what indigenous know. Why long ago they said no one belongs here, surrounding them. That this land was meant to be wet with waters of nearby, not to fertile crops and domestic graves. The old ones said, when the animals leave this place, the waters will come again. This power is beyond the strength of man. The river will return with its greatest force. No one can stop her. She was meant to be this way. Snakes in honor do not intrude. The rainbow tied with red and green like on that petal rose, though only momentarily. Colors disappear like print photographs fade. They mix with charcoal surroundings and the flurry of foul follow. Like strands, maidenhair falls from blackened clouds above, swarming inward, covering the basin and raising sky.
Darkness hangs over. The hills appear as black water crests, blackness varying shades. The sun is somewhere farther than the farthest ridge. Main gravel crossroads and back roads slicken to mud, clay. Turtles creep along rising banks, snapping jowls. Frogs chug throaty songs. The frogs only part of immense choir heralding the downpour, the falling oceans. Over the train trestle, suspension bridge with current so slick, everything slides off in sheets. Among rotten stumps in black bass ponds, somewhere catfish reel in, fins and crawl, walking whiskers to higher waters, waters above, below. The choir calling it forth. Brightly plumed jays and dull brown-headed cowbirds fly as if hung in one place, like pinwheels. They dance toward the rain crest, the approaching storm, beckoning, inviting, summoning. A single sparrow sings the stroke of rain past the strength of sunlight. The frog chorus sings refrain, melody drumming heart thunder. Evoked by beasts and water creatures wanting their homes, wanting to return to clearings and streams where ash or white birch woods rise, tower over. Quaking aspens stand against storm-shone vales, sheeting rains crossing, pasture meadow, hills, mountain. Sounds erupt. Gathering clouds converge, push, pull, push, pull, forcing lightning. Back and forth, shaping windy sculptured swans, mallard ducks and giants from stratocumulus media, as if they are a living cloud chamber, as if they exist only in the heavens. Air swells with dampness. It has begun.
Very Sedna-esque.
Ooh. So I just threw a I hope most of you have seen the first of our presentations, because we're not going to backtrack on things that we've talked about before, except if they come up as part of the conversation. But I did put a few slides together that are a little bit new, and some of them are different than before. And let's see if I can get the right one up this time. Okay, I am not seeing it. This is my story, and I'm sticking to it. Hold on. I'm not going to share. Donna's going to talk, and I'm going to look for it.
You're not alone in this department. I struggle with this myself.
I'm usually pretty good with tech, but
Well-
I have to say the last few times, Sedna Part 2, it should be on my desktop. Why isn't it opening? Let's try that one.
Some days it's okay, and other days I'm like,
Yeah.
just no.
Let's see. I want to share Sedna Part 2. Documents. No, something has changed. So many things have changed in Zoom that I don't like.
They
Okay,
keep,
but
me
we need
too.
to move on.
yeah, stuff
Yeah,
moves.
I'm just gonna let it go, despite putting all these slides together for you. I'm just gonna let it go.
That was, tell them what the slides were, and and
Okay.
maybe you can post them in the classroom.
Okay,
And basically, they were the pathways of all of the sednoids. So that
Oh,
would be,
wow.
yes,
Is
that
that
would be,
different from what you posted before?
yeah, I put a few, well, some of the slides are the same. I put some more images together
Okay.
that really look at, the things we've seen and observed in the Arctic, but it is the slides that I put together before, and I don't know why it's
Okay.
not allowing me to
Okay.
open it, so we'll stop
Oh,
and not worry about it. Because I had this issue before. Obviously, I didn't figure it out. So,
well, we thought this week that since we have Joni, who is our expert on intervals, and many other things, and you all probably know her and may have studied with her in the UK. She's joining us, and then Jude is back with us, that we would talk about, Jude wanted to talk a little bit about how sednoids really have this huge relationship to Hygeia. And also how Nibiru is so important because it creates a template. So we thought we'd just start talking about that a little, and maybe Joni can talk a little bit about how maybe those intervals reinforce all of that, and then we can get into some of the healing and the case study work. If anybody has questions and
and
things. So
we did
can,
give an assignment, and I don't know if any of you did the assignment to really think,
if you just have any questions.
to
too.
look
I have
at.
one that we can go over. It's not,
Yeah,
I
so look-
followed, I don't know if I followed the assignment exactly, but I have one that
That's
you
fine.
might find
So
interesting.
we'll get to that as well,
Okay.
because that was part of what we had hoped to do today, is really take a couple of cases and help you understand perhaps some new
Yeah, the
innovative ways
applications.
for application.
Yes, innovative ways of looking, because we're seeing different things clinically these days, and we're living in a trauma-filled world that's rapidly changing, and as you know, including the advancement of AI quicker than ethics can keep up with, etc. So, and we knew that's what the sednoids heralded for us. Okay, Jude, you wanna?
Well, so last time when we talked about the sednoids, we talked about them sort of being a kind of expanding our understanding and the aspects of other dimensions of Sedna. That they sort of express her multidimensionality, and especially we talked about Ammonite being the harbinger of how we might look at interfacing with the new technology of artificial intelligence, and the gap between how smart we are to be able to figure out how to create these things and how wise we are in knowing how to use them. Um, and that there's a real that particular sednoid really speaks to the sort of duality of that and how to make a bridge of it, how to expand the use of it in positive ways, but to make people very aware of the difficulties that are inherent in kind of turning your creativity over to an artificial intelligence. And so, that very much is the kind of both yin and yang aspect that we see in Sedna. That Sedna is is non-dual in that way. And so, how do we help that energy to be used in a positive way, but not used without awareness? And so the Sednoids are kind of bringing this up for us. And what I think is that because Hygeia is so multidimensional, and every time we combine her with another planet, she helps that planet to express all of its dimensions. That combining Hygeia with Sedna really helps to amplify the dimensionality of Sedna and to activate the Sednoids in helping that amplification, to create a greater awareness of the superconduction aspects of Sedna and the non-duality and the connection to unity consciousness, and also to speak to the multi-dimensions of the healing themes, the things that we're seeing so much in the field now, anger and fear and abandonment and a sense of not connecting to the earth and to the gifts of the earth, and not nurturing the earth, and not nurturing ourselves, and not nurturing the field that connects all of us. And so that combination of Hygeia and Sedna really helps to reach out and multidimensionalize the ability to connect and create a greater healing bond to all of those different themes. I'm also feeling that combining with Nibiru, who provides a new matrix, who provides a new template for connection and for non-duality, and to address the feelings of abandonment and lack of nurturance and lack of connection, and the incredible duality that we're seeing in the field right now.
Right, and not to give our creativity over to something else, right? Because Nibiru has that strong ability for creation, just like Sedna is a creatrix, and just like we have now with moving into the age of Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, things are happening lightning fast, sometimes without faster than we want them to, which is also just like Sedna ruling the spine, so does Uranus, right? So we've got all this information coming in that we have to be able to integrate. And, that's why I think that's why Sedna can be so helpful. But we also have to be aware that, the Uranus, it's all this invention and new and creative creativity as well. It's there has to be an awareness of that Uranian component as well. So I think maybe we'll talk a little bit too about that interval with Sedna Uranus, and yeah, I mean, it's just happening very fast, right? And that's why we're having all this turmoil in the field that's being kind of materialized on this plane where we have all these, fascist governments coming into play with power over because, that's Piscean, all these, cult-like things and that are happening. And so instead of, and illusions and all this fake news and these fake images and the fake, all these AI generated research papers that are going,
That are fake.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're not real research, so
Mhm.
it's like people are having a hard time. And that's that Piscean piece, the Neptunian piece, that it is trying to leave, right? With that can't discern boundaries between, all these things that are happening. What's real, what's fake, what's imagined, what is, a living reality that we can all agree upon.
I don't know. Yeah.
Facts, what are the
Yeah.
facts?
Yeah.
And so, we have to be careful and where Sedna helps us to create those boundaries and be strong, have those strong boundaries without rigidity. And that's one of her jobs, right? And it's about ethics. She always questions if something isn't for the moral good of everybody, then why are we doing it? So she, in a sense, is that becomes that moral compass. And then when we put her with Hygeia, then we get that very, very strong ability for discernment and what is in the highest good, both in the field and that will be entering into people's super consciousness, and also to provide some warning signals about when we take the wrong directions. So I think, yeah.
I think that, Sedna and Nibiru and Hygeia all come together to help us to create a sense of discernment
Mhm.
and and a connection to the wisdom to know when is the right time for something, and what's appropriate in the way of utilizing this technology.
Right.
Because the technology, we have all of these, technologically brilliant things that happen, but we don't seem to have the wisdom to understand
Right.
where they're applicable and where the boundaries are, what determines their appropriateness.
Mhm. Yeah. Joni, you want to talk a little bit about our intervals with those?
Sure. I was so drawn to reading with the sednoids and
Yeah.
thinking in terms of the complex intervals. Last week, Jude, you talked a lot about how much you work in the field.
Yeah.
I do too, and I think that these sednoids, the further out you go, in some ways, the deeper in the structure it is. If you're reading somebody's field, you're getting further and further into the cellular structure. And so these sednoids are like something very deep and fundamental in the Earth's energetic field. They're so far out, they're like something, just like a sound wave makes up everything. They have that sort of quality. So I'm drawn when I'm picking up the forks and looking at them. I like the lows, but I also like doing things like, combining, expressing that distance that's between them. Sometimes anchoring it on the field and then, anchoring it on the body and then reinforcing it in the field. But sometimes it's quite nice to just remind the body, like, there are these very subtle energetics that are going on that are very interesting. And if we pay attention to them, maybe we get a little bit more guidance for these very interesting times that we're in. I was listening to a thing about AI this morning, AI and the news, and how Google has a preference algorithm now. And so this will only fuel AI. So if you Google something, baseball, you don't get your local team anymore. You'll get the National Baseball Association, and then you'll get this hierarchy of information. And now, of course, with AI, that's what it's going to read. So like our local will disappear, or it'll be on page 50. And so it's like this self-reinforcing thing. And so my questions, when I'm looking at these things, I'm thinking, well, what is it to be human? And how do we become more human so that this beautiful resonance is more available and obvious? And so to me, that's the trauma piece. If we lift that off, then we resonate more fully and, become the beacons that we can be. I think mostly with my clients, I'm just reminding them that they have that inner light and it's there. On some level, they're already healed, as we always say, with Nibiru. Yeah. So, we know the intervals, right? Is that what you want? I don't
A little bit about that, maybe Sedna, Nibiru, we can,
Sedna Hygeia, because I really think that just reinforcing for people the inversion and how we have a fourth and we have a fifth, and
Yeah.
how that really plays out because I think it's a very powerful combination.
Yeah. Yeah. So if Sedna's at the bottom, right, then it's a fourth. But if you switch it and put Hygeia at the bottom, then it's a fifth. So you have this flipping of the intervals, but they're both really powerful, simple ratios, very stable structures. And the way that I make that choice usually is, who do I want to be defining the interval? Just like when you're deciding what do you put, which fork do you open with when you're working on extraordinary vessels? It's the same sort of thinking. Who do I want to be the fundamental and really kind of the theme, and then who do I want to temper that? And sometimes if I can't decide, then I'll just shift them. I'll just do it both ways.
I do
And
that
I
too.
do that on the vessels too. If I can't, it's like an equal weighting, well, then I'll do it a couple times one way, and then I'll flip the forks and I'll do it the other way, so that the body is getting the information that they're equally weighted.
And a lot of times I find, Joni, that when I'm switching, if the body has a particular preference, it really links. And so I may have thought, I'm going to switch this a couple more times, but it's like, oh, okay, they're really syncing. So I may want to sort of stay with that for another repetition, because it's sort of telling me something.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like when the sound goes straight in. Yeah, I'll have that, please.
Feeling too, it's like, okay, I can really feel them talking to one another in the body and in the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. That's so cool. Mostly that one, or also Nibiru?
yeah, Sedna,
A little
Nibiru.
different quality. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Sedna Nibiru is an interesting one,
Yeah.
as well. It's just having that, it's a third, but it's not, I think it's a major third, where before, when we had it with Om, it was a minor third.
Yeah.
And now with Sedna, that shifts things just
Yeah.
a little bit,
Yeah.
and that third is like moving a little out there a little bit, but with that combination, at least archetypally, we're going to have that conflict between civilization and nature, and the indigenous wisdom versus technology, of course. And then we don't want, it's a little bit more free to go now, right, to not have all that I guess constraint of that, the eternal return. It has in a sense more the quality now of having more wisdom, almost like that zodiac, the Om zodiac, because instead of eternally returning, it's gathering wisdom, where there was more sadness about what was to pass. I was thinking about this morning with when we had that minor third with Om Nibiru.
Yeah. Like
A little bit of
belonging.
that longing.
Longing. Yeah. Yeah. Never being able to really quite connect.
Or resolve.
or resolve. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting, the indigenous and the, because Nibiru is from there was a planet
Right.
somewhere, there was a connection
Right.
at some point, right? There is indigenous aspect to this as well. And in many ways, indigenous is also it's the path of, we think of it as being not technical, but in many ways it's like beyond technical.
Right.
It's the simplest connection. Yeah, the most efficient in some ways. And I just had a thought, but it just flew out of my head. If I don't think about it, it'll come back and I'll mention it when sorry. It's like, oh, what was it? I had a good idea. I can't remember now. Anyway, and so the inversion then is a 6.
Right.
Right.
So it's
Depending how you
building,
do it.
right? Building our new home,
Yeah.
building our new creation, our new architecture for,
Yeah. It feels active,
yes.
compared to the perfect 4th and perfect 5th that have real stability. A 3rd and a 6th, there's more movement going on.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's more movement. There's what had to do with the orbit of Nibiru. Oh, I know that it's this eternal return thing. Is it we look at the ammonite. That's
Right.
so one of the sednoids is named for ammonite. There's lots of ammonites here in the coastal cliffs.
Yes.
And that spiraling, of course, we look at them as they're 2D in a way, but the spiral also maybe goes up, and so we feel like, oh my God, here we are in the same place again. But actually, maybe we've got more interesting problems this time around, or something, that we internalize our lessons and integrate them so that we don't even realize how far we've come.
Exactly.
I absolutely believe that. And I'm actually working on developing a class about working with planetary frequencies to move through grief. And what I've experienced and what I've really done a lot of research about is that people's experience of grief is, people talk about the stages and all that stuff, and they make it sound so linear. And it's really a spiral. It really is that thing of you come back around and you're interacting with it at a different dimension, at a different expression. And I really believe that almost everything that we experience is like that. That we really come around and it's like, oh, I thought I handled that, but what I've got is another way of coming at it. I'm sort of peeling off another layer of how do I learn to integrate, myself with that, or how do I learn to move with that or move through it. But I really relate to that whole idea of things being a spiral and you coming around and revisiting it at another perspective or within another dimension. And I've so found that this is true in the emotional experience of riding through senses of loss, on kind of all different sorts of levels. So I really resonate with what you were saying.
And there's so many different ways, we lose partners or we lose identity of some sort of job, or, we retire or the kids move or what, there's so many ways, so many losses.
Yeah, and
we feel like we should just handle it, or, oh, I'm done with that. Whew, all that, like, no, that doesn't.
It doesn't quite work that way.
And it's loss, and then it's global loss. It's people have lost faith in things that they've thought were established norms, and they've lost faith in the society, and they've lost faith in connection with each other. And so what I'm looking at is all of that is this huge collective grief that then resonates into the microcosm as well, right? And amplifies the stuff that people are going through personally.
Yeah.
So that whole idea of a spiral is really profound.
Yeah, so it's amazing they picked that name.
Ammonite,
this
yeah.
Thing way out there, like, which to me in my mind is the furthest thing from an ammonite.
Yeah.
Except the stars were probably absolutely beautiful 65 million years ago when that creature was in the ocean. So,
But it is, because it's considered a fossil. but it
Oh,
does
right, the fossil.
have that in a similar way. I mean, with Sedna, indigenous cultures, but also with Nibiru, because I'm just thinking about it. It was really an ancient fossil as well.
Mhm.
The planet. I mean, it came from another place, and I mean, look at Nibiru's path, right? And
Yeah.
it's not even on the same plane, but yet it brought in all this new thing, a new family member, and just like the Sednoids, but they form like a constellation, family constellation with Sedna. But I think,
Mhm.
when we're talking about really shifting things, Sedna, Nibiru, because it's that whole template, plugging that into like the Ren and Do into the CNS to start a new cycle, to change the template, to change the DNA.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if we use it in combination with the oils, I mean, in that Nibiru oil, I mean, what's more of a
Mhm.
fossil that all of the ancient species and bugs are encapsulated in amber. So the main ingredient in that Nibiru oil is you're going to have amber, and then the light with the lavender and things. But to work with those oils as well, they can then address that limbic system,
Yeah.
right? Which
Yeah.
is a huge part of all this emotional field,
Yeah.
so
A
we can
lot
be
of,
on those things at the same time, putting that a little bit of that just in the field. We don't have to shove it up their nose, but just
yeah.
waft it in the field a little bit. Or
Powerful in the field.
yes.
And that sense of someone, just that core feeling like they can handle it, in the sense of just that they're resourced, a little bit more resourced each
Mhm.
time, to be able to handle whatever's going on for them.
Right.
Nibiru is great for
So
that.
I mean, just resetting that CNS, the doing the
Yeah.
REN with these two.
Lovely.
A lot of times
John.
when I'm working with the microcosmic orbit, a lot of times, especially recently, I've done like on the do, I've done Sedna Mars and then Hygeia Mars. And then on the Ren, I've done Sedna Venus and Hygeia Venus to sort of recalibrate the nervous system and the endocrine system and the whole core kind of orbit.
That's great.
And I've used that for a variety of different things that people have really had pretty profound shifts.
Dude, can you say that again? You said you use on
Great idea.
Jude and Ren. You said you use Mars and Sedna.
So
And then
on the two, it was Mars and Sedna, and then Mars and Hygeia.
okay.
Actually, I'm actually using the Sedna and the Hygeia as the
Driver
tone.
is the base, right? Okay, and then the Mars is the one that's like, okay, and then you did the same thing, but you did it with Venus on Ren, right?
Nice.
What, Dory?
I thought that you switched it for balance, that you used Mars, like, you know what I mean? You did Mars on the yin and then Venus
No,
on the
No,
yang.
it's Venus on Ren and Mars on the do.
Okay.
So is the idea behind that too, then you're balancing out parasympathetic and sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Or is that, so the idea behind that, are you resetting, like you said, resetting the nervous system? So are you rebalancing parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems then? Is
Yeah.
that basically the idea?
Yeah.
That, the orbit?
It also recalibrates the endocrine system, right? Because the Mars and Venus really have a close relationship to balancing the yin and yang on that level.
Right.
And because the central core lines up with the chakras that line up with the endocrine system and the nervous system, you're also coming at it from that perspective as well.
Right. Even though you're not doing Mars and Venus at the same time?
I mean, on the
Do you know what I
on
mean? Because it obviously wouldn't be able to do, you know, if you're holding the forks, you're going to do the do and then you're going to do the ren. Even though one is right after the other, you still feel that they're Mars and
yeah, yeah,
Venus.
because the body holds into.
Yeah. Okay.
Joni, what about that Sedna Uranus?
Sedna, Uranus,
Minor
Yeah.
sixth?
minor six, major third, depending. So it's
Yeah.
inversions, major third.
And then we have that, I mean, just archetypally too, I mean, and just,
Yeah.
we've got two superconductors basically. And
Mhm.
two associations with the spine and the axis mundi, and
Yeah.
both are concerned with collectivism. So, you know, we've got to, both can do great work in the field, the consciousness, super consciousness, and, you know, to really affect change.
Yeah.
So with the technology with Uranus as well, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
That, and the blending again of that indigenous wisdom with the modern technology.
Yeah. Slow it down a little bit. Slow down Uranus a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, if the idea is to, as an individual and as a groups, for us to become superconductors, to actually make that kind of change in the field as
Mhm.
well,
Yeah.
you know, for the good of the collective.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, we did have the advent of Uranus came during what was it, the French Revolution, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's true.
I think that's right. It was all around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we've got a lot of revolutions happening right now,
Yeah.
you know, but it's also
Yeah, a
that
lot of
breaking
change.
breaking through.
Yeah. And how do
The-
we handle these cycles more
Mhm.
easily? Does it have to be revolution, or can we recalibrate more
Yeah,
easily?
some kind of recalibration with
Yeah.
our collective spirit and our collective, you know, chi, our collective, yeah, like eureka experience, where we can come to to just see something so clearly in the moment, where we don't, you know, it just hits us and then we just know. So I think that can help with that. Also community building,
Mm-hmm.
superconducting community building,
Yeah.
which is more and more needed, as like here, where more and more things are getting taken away from people and they're having to rely on, and more events, whether it's weather events or whatever, having to rely on others so much.
Yeah.
I think it can really help, and, you know, to build community. And also kind of mitigate some of the harmful effects of some of the sound experiments that are still being done out there.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, if you keep triangulating and testing weaponry in the oceans, you're going to create an earthquake. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so.
Well, and all of that stuff is in the field. We swim in these, this soup of frequencies that even 10 years ago were not nearly as intense as they are now.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
20 years ago, I would log on and I would be the only network, right?
Mhm.
And now, if you go into London, it's like hundreds of networks. If your computer could even
Right,
list
right.
them all for you, and we're just in that all the time, and our bodies have to sort through it.
Well, and then all the satellites up there that
Yeah.
are
Oh, it's
like
on every
hundreds
level.
and
Every
hundreds.
night.
I was just reading in, I don't know if it was BBC or Popular Science or one of those, was that there's a whole new satellite and whole new technology that can actually, where they don't have to go anymore and drill into the ice cores to see, you know, how much stuff is melting and all that. It just, basically takes a picture and it can calculate how much ice loss it happens in any given period of time. In the same way, I think it must be similar technology to how they're finding all those ancient civilizations and the Mayan civilizations where
Yeah.
they used to have to dig with a pick and shovel, right?
Right.
And
Ground imaging
bushwhack,
radar. Yeah.
and they can just use the imagery and see the entire Mayan city
Wow.
that was literally undiscovered before.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so this is a good use of technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's to save human beings, all of that, and just to say, okay, this is the data. Yeah, it's melting faster than we
Way
thought.
faster.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
this chunk could calve off and hit Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of a good use of technology.
Oh, yeah. And not to say that it's all negative, just to say that we are all swimming, it is just a factor, but a lot of
Absolutely.
it's excellent,
But
Yeah.
do we need 500 satellites perusing the Earth?
Yeah.
We need all these drones everywhere,
Right.
and
Right.
there's regulation for them.
Right. Yeah.
So
I know.
that's some of
Hopefully they will come too.
these issues. But I like sometimes even just listening to the intervals because they can bring us into an awareness of things and help us connect. Like with this one, maybe connecting to your own genius. Maybe it's helping to integrate for people that don't have such an understanding of astrology. Well, Uranus rules astrology, right? To help to understand
Mhm.
that language in a different way, as a frequency of it into itself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Nice.
So 1781 is when it was discovered. I looked it up.
Oh, 1781. Yeah.
Herschel, who
Herschel.
discovered it,
Herschel,
was a
right?
musician,
Yeah.
and he moved to London to work as a musician and took up an interest in astronomy and found the planet by accident.
That's amazing.
But it seems in keeping with what the planet represents, right? You found it
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah.
Right. And that was just like by accident, or why did they name Sedna, right? It was just a
Right.
couple of guys who didn't know anything about Inuit mythology yet.
They knew it was in the north.
More
and
cold
far
and
away.
dark.
and in a cold place. And here we have all of these understandings now about her. By the way, we talked a little bit about the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud, and this coming week for at least people in North America, I'm not sure when the peak is for the Perseids, but that is our Earth is passing through the remnants of the Tuttle. The Swift-Tuttle comet, and that's our Perseid showers. But that's commentary. That's a lot of information,
Yeah,
and
that's right now, I think.
DNA from out there
Yep.
falling on us right
Yeah.
now as
Yeah.
well. So that's why we should
Try and see them or
stay
be aware
alert.
that it's
and
happening.
They are happening,
Yeah.
whether we can see them or not. I mean, this is our planet is
it's-
passing through it.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's harder to see them because we have a full moon, so you're not getting the dark night
But
sky.
you're getting amplification.
So you can maybe
You are.
experience them more than see them visually. But it's really quite extraordinary this time of year.
I think there's a planetary parade as well, isn't
Yes,
there? In the
they're
next few
all in
nights?
alignment.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh,
just before dawn, like an
Yeah.
hour before dawn.
it's quite magnificent.
And
If you
those
have clear
things don't
sky.
happen very often where
No.
so many things are aligned. If you remember from, what was it, when in our exploration of the solar system in level 3, how that young postdoc, how a lot of these, was it when Voyager was there, it wouldn't have been able to even get very far, but so they set the date back because these planets were in alignment, and then Voyager could get a gravity jump
Right,
from,
right.
right? Remember that?
Yeah.
From Jupiter
Yeah,
to
an
to
assist.
Saturn to Uranus to Neptune, and that's how we found out so much about the planetary sciences and things. But it was through that unusual and timely alignment that pushed us in the frontiers of our understanding of
Mhm.
the solar system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I
What
really think that people, even who aren't aware of any of that stuff specifically, are
Right.
aware of really strong energy shifts. You know,
Yeah,
talking to
they're
people like,
observing.
whoa, I don't, it's this, all of these things have been sort of coming at me really strongly and
Right.
sort of overwhelming. And I don't really, I mean, there's a lot of that shows up even in people aren't really connected to what's going on astrologically, but it's really intense energy in the field right now that people are feeling, and that's manifesting in different, speaking to different patterns in their own field.
Mhm.
How long would you say this has been affecting people?
Hmm?
So how long would you say this has been affecting people? Like, you talk about this most recent, like, moving through this, and he's talking about people like Jude, you mentioned people saying, okay, if they're not connected, they're still feeling overwhelmed, stuff like that. Like, is this something the past few days, the past month?
I
I-
would say it was that we talked about this a little. It started probably maybe
I
a
would
year
say
and a half ago.
actually,
Maybe
I
during
would say
COVID.
people coming out of the
COVID.
whole COVID
COVID thing? Yeah.
crisis and how it impacted them emotionally, physically. People lost loved ones. We lost Paul during that time. And, I think the impact on people from COVID that could happen, that kind of shutting down, that the response, the different ways in which people responded, I think it was extraordinarily traumatic. And I don't think emotionally, physically, people have really recovered
No,
from
I think
that
you're right.
sense of loss of control. You feel like you could control nothing in your life at that point.
But who knows?
then-
I mean, by their very nature, viruses are agents of change. So we had this major mRNA virus coming in and changing the matrix of basically everything on the planet,
Exactly.
every
Yeah.
human being, and even animals.
Because
So,
if you look at it,
go ahead.
it's been, I mean, everyone was impacted in some way or another, even if not, personally, because it was a global situation, right? So everything shifted everywhere. And the whole idea of, well, it's over now. I mean, it's not, there's still, it still shimmers in the field all the time, and it activates things for people. And there are things that shifted that haven't come even into any kind of sense of settlement, even after, what is it, 4 or 5 years now? Because it's still, it has a huge morphic field, and it's so pervasive, and it's so global, and it's affected so many people in so many different ways. And no one was able to not have it contact them in some way. And
Well,
so,
and I think what it has done politically around the globe is pushed factions forward in some ways as a response to how governments responded to the epidemic.
Yeah.
And so, you start seeing the blame game, you start seeing Asian people being the enemy because, oh, it came from China. You start seeing this whole focus on other. So I think really, all of these strides that we had made forward, all the forward momentum we'd had for so many years, you start to see the pushback that arises with global fear global wanting to find who the enemy is, wanting to assign blame.
Mhm.
And it puts you into fight or flight. It puts you into this sense of not really knowing what's, and then bring on, after all of this, then bring the rise of AI and fake news and
Well,
this
that's all related though,
related,
because
right?
when that virus comes in and starts to change things, because we're in a zodiacal shift, right?
Yeah. And I
And
mean,
so that is a huge shift
Yeah.
in consciousness. And it changes the entire template of everything moving forward, for the next 2000
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and so
that's
it's still, we're working in that chaos yet between, between those
very
cycles.
messy, big shifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would say, when that came in, it also brought in a lot of, then you have, Uranus coming through a bit with all those new researches, new gene splicing. You've got all these genetic mapping and, so many great new
They're
technologies
trying to kill
are
us.
happening right now that they are trying to kill them off.
They're trying to retract science, retract research, putting out fake research. I mean, it's all that
Yeah.
push
So
pull.
that's what we're faced with.
right, it's
It's
polarized.
it's
It's
a
polarization.
polarization.
And that's the other reason that Sedna is so important in this time, right? Because
Yeah.
Sedna is about pulling that together, about unifying, about non-duality, right? When we're in this time of such great polarization and so much duality.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's very true. So one of the things that we asked of you last time was to think about clients you're working with, cases that you're finding particularly challenging, and
Maybe how to do self-care
or your own
during these times.
your own self-care during these times. So did anyone bring a particular case that they want to discuss? I see a few shaking heads. So who would like to talk about a case?
I've
Then
got
I'll go.
something if no one else does, but
Go ahead, Christine. Since
okay.
you volunteered first.
All right, sure. Okay, so I have a young gal that's coming to see me. Her mom actually comes and her aunt and her grandma, regardless, like the whole family ends up coming. So just recently she started to come see me, probably about a month ago. She's 12. She suffers from severe anxiety and depression. We're talking like she's 12 and she's like suicidal type,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So it's horrendous. Like she's got these seriously deep, dark thoughts. There's quite a connection between this little girl and myself and the family and so on and so forth. Long story short, like with the anxiety, the depression, she's got dark thoughts. The dad, who's no longer in the home, but she still does have some interactions, has some addiction issues, this kind of a thing. She's afraid to be left alone. She'll do some little bit of cutting, some picking, this kind of a thing. I did actually try the thesis protocol on her. So I did the Beck's depression inventory score. I did the scared. Although when I did the scared, I looked afterwards and I'm like, the one that I gave her was for adults, not for kids.
Hmm.
Not realizing that there's a little bit of a difference. I don't know how much of a difference there is, but regardless, what I was the biggest surprise that I've all of it, because everybody I've done that protocol on, everybody's scores always shift and usually in the right direction. Let's put it that way. Hers, everything shifted in the opposite direction. Everything got worse.
So for
Right,
those of
so-
you who don't, Christine's thesis is posted in the thesis folders on Cosmos. So if you want to read what her thesis was about, you can find it on Cosmos.
Basically treating anxiety, depression with the 3 treasures and that sort of a thing. Regardless, she's done some other interesting things, like I've known this little girl since she was about, I want to say 18 months or 2 years old. My daughter, or both my daughters, and she's a friend of mine, her kids all did karate together. And this little girl, actually, there was a bunch of parents sitting on, this is going back about 2015. So we're going back about 10 years. And she actually got off the bench, walked all the way down. There's a whole row of parents, walks over to me, sticks her shoes out at me and goes, "Do you like my new shoes?" And I said, "Why, yes, they're beautiful." And then she turns around, jumps up and sits in my lap. Never knew this kid from nowhere. And her mom looks at me and goes, and I go, "Okay." And then ever since, and it's kind of been like that. So we actually have this running joke through treatment. It's because there's a little bit of, she's admitted there's a little bit of resistance and this and that. And I even said to her, I said, "Listen," I said, "if we can put down the resistance, then we'll go shoe shopping together." Like, I've tried everything, like not just from an Acutonics perspective, but you know, everything else you could think of to see and know, right? So it's, I can't
So
figure out,
you're finding everything you're using is
Yeah.
not.
nothing is working. The other thing that's actually really interesting, and her mom brought it up and I had forgotten about it, but her mom brought it up a couple of treatments ago. When she was a little girl, they used to ask her, "Where are you from?" I don't know how this came about. And I thought this was really interesting. She used to say, she did ask her where she was from, and she would repeat the numbers. "I'm from 267.892. I'm from 267.892. So I looked it up and it's not close to Sedna. But then I wondered, I thought, well, with the frequencies and the intervals and stuff like that, like
What
267.
267.892. So I thought, well, is it a star? What the heck is that?
892.
it doesn't.
Then it's like, and like, I'm like, where did this come from? Like, and the same thing, the mom's like she hasn't said it now in a few years, but I was like, what? You know, so I wondered about that. And then the other thing that kind of comes in is when Donna was talking about the shift, the shift of the percent, like the axis shift. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because as the axis shift, the other thing that I've noticed and I'm seeing more of, obviously anxiety, depression, but things like ADHD. So then it makes me start to think of the inner and outer gates on the wrist.
Well, what did you put for a signature of this girl? I'm just if we're looking at her having a harmonic pathology, what's the signature?
I didn't even look at it that way. I just kind of looked at him like, okay, well, let's look at this, do the thesis protocol on her and see what we can shift, because this, everybody else that I've done it on, everybody else's scores all improve. So
she has a big Pluto signature.
Yeah.
She's got a big Pluto signature and an father that with addictive tendencies or is addicted. And so
apparently,
that's
like, there's
sitting
some
in the field.
Yeah, he's got some
My
dark thoughts
question
and
is,
so on and so forth. And she even says that, like, she says, "I get dark thoughts." But of course, same thing, trying to sometimes get all that information out of a 12-year-old is a little bit,
Yeah, it's not
It's
that
not
much of a
not easy,
reliable narrator.
Yeah.
right?
You wanted to ask?
So my question is, have you worked much in her field?
A little bit, actually, when not a lot. And I was thinking about that afterwards. I did more stuff on the body than I did in the field. So
Well,
I think I need to go back and do some stuff in the field. I don't have a full set of high forks. I have a few.
Even if you don't have high forks, the middle forks will work in the field. They just don't. They're not as
I do have the chimes. I do have a full set of chimes.
So
So I could use
I would
chime.
really look at what you notice in her field. I mean, just your first impressions of something that gets your attention in her field,
Yeah.
and then play with that. Try to ask it. What signatures do I want to play with here?
Yeah.
What calls?
There was a couple of things now that you mentioned it. I did when you cocoon them and whatever, when you do that at first. And I did notice it was on her right side. I want to say about the level of where the spleen would be. So between, between the waist and the bottom of the rib cage. And as I was scanning there was definitely, it was like, there was a little bit of resistance in the fork. And even her mom and I both heard it where there's a sound change. So then I went, okay, I used some stuff in the forks and I used chimes over the field. But again, still when we go back a few treatments later due to scores, no change, or not no change.
Well, and see, sometimes it's like the first place that you find,
Mm-hmm.
you may want to go there, but then it's like, okay, what does that connect to someplace else? Because there's usually like two nodal points that'll talk to one another, and
Yep.
you can like sound chimes that you're choosing and see when they synchronize, when they come into contact with one another harmonically.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually a sweet spot for releasing some of this. I mean, this kid sounds like she's got so much stuff
Yeah.
disrupting her energy field that's why the
Absolutely.
things you did that usually works didn't work.
You want to focus in, Sharon?
I'm gonna just-
Those kinds of things are always like a red light for me to look at what's going on, and you know, where do you want to focus that's off body, and maybe so off body that, I mean, way out there, like
Yeah.
John was talking about, that's connecting to something way, you know, I mean, this kid maybe, you know, maybe tracking back intergenerational stuff.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I
Sure.
thought of that, and the mom says to me, I don't know if I buy into this intergenerational stuff. And I was like, I looked at her and I said, I
Yes.
said, they talk about it in Acutonics, they talk about it in acupuncture, they talk about it in Ayurvedic medicine, they talk about it in native medicine. So I'm like, I think there is something to it, you know,
Have you
right?
treated a mom?
Yeah, I've treated mom, and mom's very open to all kinds of stuff. Like she's actually a life coach. She's very open to a lot of things. So she's
So the other thing is having them together in a room and playing with both of their fields,
mm-hmm.
where there's, you know, where there's connection and where there's disruption,
Mm.
because there's that too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I would look at all of that stuff and see what shows up. And I mean, Donna was talking about Pluto signature, Pluto and Sedna, you know, Pluto and Nibiru to unwind the different dimensions of this.
Mm-hmm.
But something like that is where I would go with something that's perplexing like that, because it really feels to me like it's you know, that the pattern is stuck in the field, and until you really, I mean, it's all wave before it's particle, right? So you can't release it in the particle place. It's because it's really anchored in the field, and you need to play with that.
Exactly. Play in the field to release it in the body. Absolutely. So that's what I'm going, because I do some field work, but not a lot. I've tended to do more on body stuff just because of the sets of works that I
Right.
have.
Right.
Right. So I kind of go, well, almost when I go to work in the field, I don't want to say I struggle with it because I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, I understand, but
I
it's,
mean-
from my experience over years, even when I was, I mean, before I started to work with sound, as a chiropractor, I would get these things where people would, you know, like they'd have something that maybe some sort of trauma or some sort of accident, and they'd get better and get better and get better, and then sort of stall.
Yep.
Good, but not great. It's like,
Yep.
okay, so what's going on there?
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, once I finally started to find out about other energetics, then, you know, then it became really obvious to me that the reason it stalls is because the pattern is anchored in their energy field. And until you release that, they're just going to stall it in different places. And, you know, something will get better, but something else will show up because the resonance to that disharmony is still there.
Plus, she's probably got a lot of different changes coming up. She's probably
Well, and that's exactly it. She's
She's
12.
coming
She
into
hasn't
menses,
started
probably,
menstruating yet, but
everything
she's
else,
at
yeah.
that, you
Right.
know, there's a little bit of development going on. So there's a little bit of that. There's changes, I think, in the house. I think there's 3 siblings. The oldest brother is looking at buying a house and moving out and doesn't spend a lot of time at home. Like they're a pretty close family and they all, you know, get along and stuff like that, right? And so, you know. But the other thing is too, I did notice when she comes, my treatment room for at home where she comes is actually very small. but I do have Tibetan bulls in there, and she is very attracted to the bulls. She loves it when I play them. She wants to play them. So again, that goes back to what Jude's saying about in the field. But then I'm going, well, how I feel like I'm almost, when I go to work in the field, and then maybe not in all people, but with her, I almost feel lost.
Hmm.
You'll get used to it.
Yeah, I really think that's probably key for her.
Hmm.
Um,
This could make a huge
I
difference.
work in the field with everybody to some degree. I mean, not necessarily that much, but because there's always something that's holding something.
Oh, absolutely. Everything. Absolutely. It's the whole microcosm, macrocosm, right? So it's like,
Yeah. Well, and like I said, everything is particle, it's wave before it's particle. So sometimes we can play with things. Sometimes I notice stuff that probably hasn't manifested physically yet, but maybe maybe by playing in the field, we can head it off or at least modify it. So
That's
I'm
where
always asking questions.
Nibiru and Sedna really work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think looking at some of the treatments we talked about in Hygeia as well, and we talk about, or in Fibonacci, I was thinking about some of the deep trauma,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Fibonacci, like the setup and then doing Fibonacci.
the unwinding of intergenerational patterns that we do sometimes. I don't know if you
oh, and I did wonder about that, like doing a Fibonacci treatment on her. I did wonder about that. But then I wondered, I'm like, with her going through so much and being there,
Yeah.
it's going to
It
be
might be
too much at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you need to sort of piece it
Make
out.
it, exactly, piece it out, right? So then I thought, well, okay, if you're going to piece it out, I'm going, where do I even start? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, because that's what I think that's what blew my mind is that,
Well, since you've done so much on-body stuff,
yeah,
maybe you could try working in the field a little bit and then bring it back to some of the Fibonacci unwinding and then, but always a little bit in her field to keep it
yeah,
open and interactive and like that, because it feels to me like she's just got, a lot of stuck energy that's not allowing things to interact with her the way that they should.
yeah.
Right, and if she thinks she's from, when they ask her where she's from, if it's from somewhere else, well, Nibiru is a really great.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and the interesting thing is I
Use.
pulled it up, like, we have that list of the planet frequencies,
Uh-huh.
right? What did I look it up? And I thought it was rather interesting because Sedna, the high fork, or Sedna is 256.9 and Ohm is 272.2. Well, 267.892 is in the middle
right.
between those two,
Huh. Huh.
right?
Yeah.
So then I was like,
I'm just
then I
looking.
thought to myself, and I was looking to see, well, what are the, and I don't
just-
work with all, I don't look at the numbers and the frequencies all the time, but this is what it made me think. And I thought, well, what two forks would get closest to that?
Look at the
Let me look at the asteroids. 1 second. Here are the
Are we
asteroids.
2, 6, 7?
Hygeia.
And I thought that was really, because that's funny. She hasn't said it in a couple of years, but they brought it up and she's like, yeah, she used to say this all the time. Where are you from? And it was like, it wasn't like she said it one day. It was like you'd ask her and she'd repeat that number. And then you'd ask her later on and she'd repeat that number.
Have you looked at the numerology of that?
I haven't, but the other piece of that is because I do have her, I got the other day, I got the exact birth time as well. Did I write it down?
Yeah.
April,
No. Donna and I.
April 9th, 2013 at 9:13 p.m. So there's lots of 9s and 3s in her chart, or when you look at the time.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna have to pull it up too. But even if I looked at the astrological chart, I kept taking Will's course, but I still feel a bit lost.
What
some
was
of
your
that.
birthday again, Christine?
April the 9th, 2013 at 9:13 p.m. She was born in Calgary, Alberta.
Calgary.
Well, Donna and I have been kind of
Interesting.
looking at thinking about the frequencies of the forks, and you've got, high Sedna is 256.2.
Yeah, that's too far off.
Exactly.
But
But
Earth,
I did,
267,
we think
267 is
idea.
higher, right? But then
272.
Oh, wait.
Earth high frequency 1.
Yeah.
That's pretty close.
so that's kind of, when I looked at the two, I went, well, it's between Sedna and Ohm.
Because a
Yeah.
high ohm is 272.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
quite close. I kind of like that image where she's like
Yeah.
almost from here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
You know, that she just
number
needs a
again?
little bit of realigning, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
It's not that
exactly.
far
And-
off, but
Well, and
I
that's
agree,
kind of what I'm
Chelsea,
thinking.
suggestion.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Have any thoughts about her treatment?
Yeah, I just have a simple thought. Because the story that you were telling, Christine, about where you bonded over her liking her shoes, I
Yeah.
initially thought about the grounding. You actually ground her, probably just
Yep,
with
and I
your
do grind. When she comes for treatment, I did totally ground her like using Om on kidney one, ground her into the table, ground her into the floor. But the problem almost in that sense is because she's got such severe depression, it's that needing the energy, you want her to be grounded, but you want to be able to draw the energy up. But the fact is it's like she's got the energy sort of at the feet and at the head. Do you know what I mean? Because anxiety, it's kind of like where it's floating up and out. And depression.
I have
it's
an
not
image
rising.
of using the chimes over her midsection, right?
Yeah.
So using Om, Hygeia, Sedna Hygeia over her midsection to really kind of lift and ground in a different way.
Yeah.
An asteroid.
Sort of
Yeah.
almost like grounding through Ren 4.
Ran for, but
I
also,
do.
as Donna was just saying, that the asteroid goddesses
Yeah.
might
Field.
Mm,
in the field to really,
And installation.
yeah.
yeah.
All that. Yeah.
Give that a try.
Sure.
I know that like even the mom's got her through Alberta Health. The mom has her doing, they found somebody that they can't call it through Alberta Health, they can't call it heart math, but they're doing some heart math, they're doing some breath work. They're going to take her to see a pediatrician in the fall to see what else is sort of underlying and kind of causing all of this. Right, too. So there's, like the mom's afraid to leave her alone.
Right. I mean, there
I
is some.
wanted to say
She's a
one
kid at
other-
risk. There's no question she's a kid at risk.
Yeah.
I wanted to just chime in one other thing with what Donna and Ellen were saying about the asteroid goddesses. I think that might be a wonderful idea because she might be struggling with her feminine identity. I don't know if the father or the mother were not her perfect role models. It sounds like it, and maybe she's struggling with her feminine alignment. That's what I'm intuitively sensing here as another way of potentially.
Yeah, especially, especially Pallas, Athena,
Mm-hmm.
give her that, strength and courage. And
That's definitely worth a shot. Because I know that has popped in my head recently. Like I have a set of the asteroid goddesses that I can't remember. Look, a long story. I acquired them secondhand, and it's one of those things. They sit in the treatment room. I have a shelf. They sit there. I hardly touch them, but it's really funny as of late that you mentioned that because all of a sudden it's like, oh, you should look at these asteroid goddesses. You should look at these asteroid goddesses.
And
Not even when she's in the
also,
room. I'm like,
maybe
now
let
that's-
her choose herself one because she seemed to like to be
Yeah.
co-creative in her process. Maybe she likes a particular goddess color, or maybe let her choose.
yeah, something like that.
Sing with her.
Dory has her hand up.
Sing with her. I don't know. I don't want to scare her out of my treatment room.
be good for her.
I like that idea.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, I was just gonna
Hey,
ask a question of
Other
Susan.
cases? Yeah, other cases?
I just wanted to ask Christina a question, and maybe this is redundant. I wonder, when you go down the wattas, do you ever finish with the craniosacral still point?
I haven't done that on her.
I would suggest that.
Yeah.
It's just, that's like that's what came to me.
Okay.
To do it's just, I do it for everyone, and it's just one of those go-tos for me. So give it a shot.
Yeah.
That's really calming to the nervous system, so that
Yeah.
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you say where that is, that point?
Oh.
I have.
Excuse
Yeah,
me?
if you base of the spine for the sacral, and the test I was told is to put your hand like at the rise of the buttocks, and just where the bottom of your hand hits, right there, and then right under here. I don't know
Do
if you can-
16 and do, and,
16,
2.
Like, what is that? It would be like, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's like do 15 and do 2.
Yeah.
16.
16.
Yeah, sorry, 16, yeah, because 15's at the base and 16's right at the, just below the
under.
occipital ridge.
Below the
Right.
yoke.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love that.
Other cases? I want to,
Or
You
any
should- or
questions
any
about
questions?
any of the intervals and how we might use them, like Sedna, Nibiru, Sedna, Moon, Sedna, any questions like on Sedna, because she's so important right now.
Mm, mm.
I have, it's not much of a case because as I'll explain, I'll be brief. I have a really wonderful son who keeps pulling his mother out of assisted living, who has declining dementia, and he wants her to have sound healing with me. He gets acupuncture at the office I work out of. And I just saw her for the third time. I actually, Mary was very kind to give me some advisement around this, because after the first session, when he paid, we were in the reception area, she was alarmed. And she's like, this is not worth it. She was critiquing afterwards. And I looked her in the eye and I was like, you don't think it's worth it? And she says, no. And I said, do you want to do this? And she said, no. And I looked at him and I said, I really don't want to work on anybody under duress. And I asked her if she was under duress. And she said, I don't know. And then she says, I'll do whatever he tells me to do. Now, he's a very kind, gentle man, but she is resistant, but she keeps coming. And I have to tell you, we've worked on her 3 times. The first time she wasn't even looking me in the eye. After the third time, the most recent, where I did everything that you brought up in the first Sedna, I'm sorry, the first version of this class, I did on the Do and the Ren, we did Zodiac Nibiru, Zodiac Sedna, Nibiru Sedna, Sedna Earth Day, Low Hygeia Mid Sedna. And then I did some heart chakra stuff. I do the things I normally do. And then I worked on some specific immune system points. And when we were finished, she's looking me in the eye. She's clearer.
Wow.
And for me, honestly, my goal in the sessions, because I can't really ask her what she wants, I'm getting what she wants through her son, and I have to be careful of whatever his agenda is. I have
Right.
what Mary helped me with, realize is like, of course he loves her and he's caring for her. And what we're really concerned about is the observation, because when she gets on, he helps her up on the table, and she's definitely suffered a lot of trauma. Who knows what she's going through now? Of course, not living in her home. She's in a place, and he's with her all, he visits her, he takes care of her. But when she gets on the table, she is clenched up. I have to straighten her out a little bit, but I try to be really mindful of touching her, and let her know everything I'm doing, of course. By the end of the session, she's almost snoring and everything has relaxed and the clenching has stopped. So I'm really doing what I can observe, and I'm trying to give her the most powerful, and Sedna is everything for her, in my opinion. I just want her to
Sorry.
have
Excuse me, what is her actual diagnosis?
dementia.
Dementia, that's what I
Yeah,
thought you
yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dementia. And she, the last, I just want to give you one more bit of information. When they were leaving the last time, and he's like, I want to make another appointment. And she's standing up in her walker and she's just shaking her head and saying no. And I said, her name is Pearl. I said, Pearl, you don't want to come back? And she said, no, I don't want to come back. And then he says, she doesn't want to go anywhere. And then she says, that's right, I don't want to go anywhere. So I'm going to, I can't say no, but she keeps coming back because he keeps bringing her back, and it is helping.
Right.
So,
So I don't know.
Yeah, I
remember-
gave her advice because I cared for my father who had dementia for 8 years.
Yep.
Okay. So I've been that guy that she's talking about. And I basically told her, they have a lack of control. All right. They are aware that progressively they're more and more out of control. And then when they're in a place, all right, they're really out of control. So a lot of I don't want this, oh, I'll do anything he tells me to do. A lot of it gets projected.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying? And I can tell you, this is what I told Dory too, is that sometimes you have to go by the input of the caretaker, because the person, depending upon where they are in their progress on dementia, they don't have a connection with what's really going on in the body, if that makes sense. But if you have a really, really caring caretaker like he is, they are involved, they are the advocate, they can tell you sometimes, like what's going on and all that. So I told her, see, what we're talking about here is almost an ethical thing. You see what I'm saying? Where Dory's used to getting her direction from the client itself. But what you have here is you have a situation where is it ethical for her to take the direction from the son, kind of thing. So I'll just throw that out there and see what other people think.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay.
Again,
my mother had dementia also, and I agree with all the stuff that you were saying about the sort of resistance and stuff like that. What I would mention is that what we know is that the mind doesn't live in the brain, it lives in the heart, right? And so for me, people with dementia is always calls to me to use the yin-way extraordinary vessel to help open their hearts, to help allow them to access whatever part of their mind they can, but to create that connection. And maybe that will make her feel less like she has to resist, less like she has to push against. It's hard to know, because it does seem, it's like even when someone in that situation relaxes a little bit, then when they go back into that sort of situation where they're not in control, the resistance comes back up again.
it's armor. Yeah.
And so, I get the business of, what do I do about treating her, because it doesn't seem like she really wants me to treat her. But, I guess that's, you sort of have to feel for it and see whether the resistance is something that's a result of the discord between her actual self and this resistance that she puts out,
Yeah.
or whether it's true resistance.
Thank you.
It seems like if it was true resistance, it would be harder for her to completely relax.
Yeah. Right. That's right. Yeah,
Because
because
we make that connection and break down that, partly I believe that we're working with releasing resistance all the time, even in people who don't have dementia, because part of what's showing up as a disharmony in their body, that's something that they're pushing against without.
That clenching, it's like that's loss of control, right? That's a liver aspect, and so also the liver is controlling our emotions and our hun, right?
Yes.
Our soul, in a sense. And I would be doing things with maybe to get her reconnected with her soul, because it's the liver
Okay.
is the heat, so even something like the 4 gates.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Yeah, I mean, with the Om zodiac or even Sedna zodiac,
Yeah. But
I can't wait to see her next time because I said I did all those powerful intervals that you guys were kind enough to share with us in the last one, and we'll see what happens. And I just want to say this one thing. The flow is interrupted because there's never a moment I am not checking up on her or checking in with her with all of my senses. I'm looking at her, I'm
Right.
not going into my space. I can't. I got to keep an eye on her, make sure everything's all right. And like I said, she just softens eventually.
One more
thank you.
thing I just want to add is don't discount, on the outer bladder lines on the
Yeah.
back, look
Like
up those
spirit.
names of those points because some of them are like residents of the Hun, residents of the Po. So in other words, the five spirits, like I think sometimes the five spirits can be disturbed. And sometimes I just go back there with someone and I'll put like 2 ohms on there to kind of calm the Hun down a little bit, like, look, it's okay, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those kind of things. So don't discount, like, I love the Acutonics because we take the points and we go beyond the physical. And I think just consider calming down the five spirits a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The liver
Yeah.
can do, because the
yeah.
Hun, yeah.
Anyone else have a case or questions that they would like to put to
Or,
this
yeah, any
esteemed, this
questions?
esteemed panel of practitioners and teachers? You're all so quiet.
She, as far as the dementia patient goes, does she have, what other symptoms is she having? Like, is he saying that she's cold? Is she hot? Is she sundowning?
No, he doesn't really go farther than that. I'm really just observing her. And what's interesting now that I'm thinking about it, and thank you for that question. After this last session, she'd not stood up for herself before. He
Yeah.
did all the talking and she was constantly deferring. So I do feel like she's a little bit more empowered after this incredible session.
Mm.
And I think her verbally resisting me and standing up for herself without him would be progress.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Well, and the other piece of it too is that when you have a dementia patient, if she's living in assisted living and he takes her out of assisted living to come and see you, is it
Yeah.
in a totally different environment. So every time you shift their environment, they're impacted,
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
right? So that's the other piece of it too, right?
Yeah.
So then I would be asking her, like, does she tend to get hot? Does she tend to get cold? Because she tends to get cold. If you don't have a heating pad on your table, put a heating pad on the table.
No, I'm in an acupuncturist office. We've got
Yeah.
all kinds of special blankets, but the thing is she's not
Exactly.
responsive that way. She really doesn't. Anytime I've asked her anything, it's like whatever he says, quote
Whatever he says,
unquote.
and she won't do anything. Okay.
She's just not interested in engaging that way. So she's kind of she's presenting, I don't know what's in her mind, but she's presenting that she's kind of placating him by coming to see me.
Yeah.
So I just have to go with that. And honestly, and Mary's other bit of advice is, Mary, I did ask him and he's thinking about having a session himself.
That would be good.
Great.
That would be
really good. Yeah.
Caretaker
I
session.
just told her that the caretaker needs attention because over time, you know what I mean? He's going to end up having all kinds of stuff. But like the other thing that came to mind to me is how much the geriatric psychiatrists will always say that the biggest thing they need is stability, because the stuff that's going on inside, is not stable. So you do have to keep in mind that when he takes her out of one routine and brings her to you, that can also trigger things with them because the biggest thing they need is routine, something that they can depend on. So I don't know if that would also mean, strengthening her with things that help give her structure and stability, things that come to mind or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if she's, maybe a distance session, healing session.
Well, the other thing that I do sometimes with people where we're talking about so they're in an assisted living thing and that there's a certain amount of change that goes on with change in staff and that kind of stuff. and again, this is something you can sort of install in the field.
Mm,
It's like a little, like a module that's just energy of nurturance and stability, and just turn it on and let it run. And, that often has a stabilizing effect. I mean, you can do that with all different kinds of things, but in her case, just, something that, where Sedna and the full moon, and Sedna and Venus, those kinds of things, and just to install it in her field and let it run.
I love it because I cocoon the hell out of her with about 4 levels of
Right.
intervals I like to use, and I will add them. Thank you, Jude.
You're welcome.
Okay.
anything else before we wrap up?
Do you ever work with stones?
Me?
Hmm?
Yes, I do. What are you suggesting?
Give her lepidolite
I have that.
or what's the other one? Oh gosh, it's pink.
Oh, not rose quartz.
Kunzite.
Kunzite. There you go. Kunzite. Yes.
Who said that?
That was me, sorry.
I know, I love
Heidi.
it.
I-
That's my fellow stoner.
Yeah, stoners.
It's a new kind of stoner. That's great. So I could try to put them in the palm of her hand or put them on the table near her. What do you suggest?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
What about putting them on, like, do you do on body work with her as well in the field?
No, not her. No, I put the forks on her, but I mean, I don't want to do that with her because she's,
Yeah.
like I said, constantly shifting and getting into from, like a pretzel into less of a pretzel, an unbaked pretzel, let's say.
Actually put them in their hands so they can hold on to them. And that
I'll
helps
try
Even
and
under the
a lot.
table?
under the table. Yeah, I put things
Under
at
the
the,
table, or even,
Under the
I'm assuming you're an acupuncture steward with
blanket
sheets,
under
I'm
which
assuming
she's
under the
sitting on.
sheets, she lays on top of them, so she may not even know they're there.
it's not a sheet situation because of the way the office is. What I can do is, I can't get her to go prone. So she's always face up. She's always supine. So I could just put the head cradle in and put them around the cradle behind her head because her head's on the table. So I
Yeah.
could put them there.
Also, if you have indigo gabbros, would be a good one.
I know indigo. What was the second part?
Indigo gabbro, or
Gabbro.
sometimes called mystic merlinite.
I never heard of that second part.
Be sure it comes from Madagascar.
Beautiful.
It's an adaptogen.
Okay. Gabro. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Anyone else? Well, thank everyone for joining us, and you have anything you want to add?
No, I just think we really need to be working with,
So critical.
it's so critical to be working and helping people integrate right now, everything that's going on, and whether you're working in the field, on the body, I mean, including off body. Sedna is so powerful. Sedna Nibiru, we're going to be using Chiron a lot too, right? For all the trauma people are experiencing. And then Hygeia, because she is really, like Jude said, bringing in all these different dimensions of Sedna that we're just starting to, we'll be exploring more and more as we see people's health issues start to unfold before our eyes, and all sorts of new health issues that people will be faced with, and animals. So, and I don't know, Jude, if you're seeing what you're seeing in animals these days.
Well, I mean, I always think that they're kind of a reflection of, their home life and their environment and what's going on around them. But I've had a lot of people kind of check in about their animal friends who are uneasy sometimes.
Right.
I mean, just,
It's
just a sort of
saying
sense
it's-
of not
Yes.
being quite themselves, not being able to, they're not resting like they usually do. And so, some things that show up as as structural issues, and as digestive issues, but a lot of just, it's like, something's not right. They're not quite settled.
Yeah, they're on edge, like people.
That makes sense because their humans are not very settled.
Heidi, you had your hand up. Did you have something you wanted to share?
What?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for having these two events, because I've been using some of the stuff that you talked about in the last session in my clients this week, and I feel it's perfect because it's taking a lot of the edge off and shifting things and using things more. I mean, I always use chimes, but more of an over rather than if I'm using like something else than using the same forks in the field and lifting it up. So I'm experimenting a lot with that. So that's been very fun.
Great.
That's great. You just have to keep filling the field with these frequencies for sure.
Yeah.
Don't forget our asteroid goddesses too, because
Well,
those
marries
different
with them.
the different axes, right? The head and the heart, the subjective versus the objective. So we have that grid of the asteroids, and whether it's Ceres Demeter and Pallas Athena, right? That axiotonal grid, and then we have Vesta Hestia and Juno.
Right.
So that they can be very powerful, and of course don't leave out the asteroid form of Hygeia. Because she basically is kind of the center pole of all those asteroids. Her frequency fits between 2 and 2 on one side. She's right down the middle.
Appropriate.
Yeah, I often do like a spiral of the last two Hygeias, the 4 and 5, the asteroid and the one just lower than it, at the end down the center and then back up the center.
Oh, nice.
That's great. Joni, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so. I think, although just Jude, your last comment made me think that I often will intertwine Hygeia set with the sun. And so start at the bottom and work my way all the way up. And to me, that's like returning to that center line. Hygeia is that pivot in the whole system. She reaches everybody. And just like the sun, our central identity, our central, manifestation.
That's great.
Are you doing that with high sun, or are you doing that with like mid sun and high Hygeia? Or
no, all the suns. So mid sun and then the 2 highs. So I'm going low Hygeia and then mid sun, mid Hygeia, high. So I'm just striking them all. And what in my mind, I'm running up, I'm working on sort of the overtone series. These octaves return again and again. So
are you doing that only in the field, or are you doing that
in the field?
just in
Yeah,
the
in the field. Sort of like a high frequency protocol you would do towards the end. I'm just doing it. But Jude was saying how she's spiraling with the last 2 Hygeia forks, and that just brought this to mind, that I really love this combination. Once you've done all the other ones we've talked about.
That sounds lovely, Joni.
So many ways to play. So many ways to play.
So great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll post
Lovely
some
discussion.
Yes, we'll post those poems.
I'll put some things in the
And then, the
comment
slide said
section
that you
of the for this forum. I'll put some things in the comment section, so you'll be able to find them on Cosmos in the comments.
Great.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you, everyone.